What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what really happened and what institutions we're doing today. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi, oddly enough, went down 0.98%, despite there being no official news from SoFi, no SEC filings or anything like that. And even fintechs were running up for the most part, most of them. And so Upstart went up 5.69, Lending Club went up 0.94. So SoFi definitely did lag. There was a lot of institutional transactions in the first half of the trading day, and then it appears as though algorithmic trading kind of took over in the second half, and you can kind of tell that based on a lot of the barcoding, and as well looking at both the secondary market and dark pool transactions all kind of verifies that. So very odd day in reality. And one thing that also stood out first thing was a transaction right at the bottom right down here for 5.79 million, and it was a sell. So that entity did really want to sell SoFi. So that's what really kickstarted the selling right here. It was obviously bought up, as you can kind of see, but that entity did really spark some fear in reality. So question is why? No articles, nothing to really justify why someone would want to sell straight out the gate, causing a significant pullback. And at the same time, you can kind of see based on this, there was a lot of puts that was purchased. So this is a very common thing, as I've mentioned in the past. Entities, they buy puts and then they unload their position. That way, causes the stock price to go down, their puts do appreciate. It's kind of unfortunate how that does play out, but nonetheless though, that's basically what happened. So some entity did sell, so we'll have to wait and see who would have unloaded their position based on, I guess, upcoming 13Fs in July when we find out. But aside from that, even on a macro standpoint, there wasn't really any data points that did come out to really move the market. What was really moving the market though was optimism associated to the states and China negotiating. Turns out they were negotiating for roughly 6 hours, and what was stated first thing from Trump showed that the states was actually there to play ball. They wanted to negotiate. And a lot of articles I've actually seen unrelated to SoFi does go to show that the states is like demanding and like yearning for China's rare minerals. So this is why probably the states is kind of wanting and willing to, even though they just placed it 2 weeks ago, remove and be flexible on some of their control tech measures. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Very good for the broader market. SoFi, of course, as I mentioned, kind of just lagged, which was very unfortunate, but SoFi shorts did also return 67,000 shares today. So again, if you kind of read between the lines, they felt that today's red day wasn't really justified. That's how I see it, of course, because there is more than 10 million shares available to be shorted. So if they wanted to double down, they definitely could have. But 13.47% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 146.25 million shares overall are being shorted. So going back over here for a second, so 12 million in calls, 6 million in puts, 45% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. And you can kind of see this one stands out as well. So this was done 225 to 230, so close to the market close, 735,000 in transactions or in premiums. And if we orient it based on all of this, a lot of bearish options, multi-leg transaction, and it looks as though that 13 puts were purchased with expiry date of July 18th, 2025, and they paid roughly around 45 to 47 cents. And so ultimately they are assuming by July, it'll be roughly around that 12.50. That's kind of their break even. So nothing overly crazy, but still it's weird to see that the market is really moving higher and you have this certain sense of bearishness coming from institutions. Again, why? I'm not really sure. So if anyone is aware of anything that did come out that is specific to SoFi, maybe lending or whatever else, then let me know in the comments. But I haven't been able to find anything whatsoever. But aside from that though, based on the bulls, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly around that 14.50 to 15 by the end of this week. So still a good sense of optimism. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub roughly 13.50 to 14. So basically where it's kind of at for the most part. So a little bit more upside is anticipated, so that's always a good thing. With it closing at 1410, it is trading between this R1 and the pivot. So 1440 is going to be that key pivot. And even leading into today, I said 1440 is going to be that big deal. And it kind of bounced off of that general area. So maybe today's pullback and just kind of suppression from algos was linked to more of a temporary and intraday technical breakdown, if that kind of makes sense. So regardless, in the next couple of trading days, just watch for 1440 and then 1350 to be the next strong support. And if you do believe a lot of those bearish options come to fruition, then that would put it between this S1 and this S2. But like I said, no new articles, nothing like that. They do have their fireside chat tomorrow. No new analyst ratings. So last one came out, I think it was like 3 days ago, Bank of America, if I remember correctly. Yep. $13 sell. So aside from all that though, it's just the technicals, the broader market, and whatever else. On the actual chart though, things are still looking pretty good. So it is above the ALMA, still above that 100-day moving average. So that's also another big deal for SoFi. So 1348. And that's been, for the most part, over the last 3 weeks, what SoFi's flirted with is that 100-day moving average. So just kind of watch for that for the most part. Given the recent price action though, it did get stochastic RSI and SoFi somewhat not overbought yet, but if it does continue on and stays even stagnant over the next couple trading days, then it'll be considered overbought. So something to keep in mind, and what that means is first sign of weakness specific to SoFi or the broader market, you could see some volatility. But let me know your viewpoint on everything. Personally, I think given what has been coming out, is relatively optimistic that there's going to be multiple deals, tariff deals, one of which is clearly going to be China in the next week and a half, along with, I think they mentioned Iran. So there will be some catalysts in the broader market, and plus a lot of good data points coming out the rest of the week that could really push things higher. And as I mentioned yesterday, I think the expectations for the fireside chat is just so low that even if they give a little bit of breadcrumbs associated to some improvements, the market might take that and run with it. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Have you been buying the dip? Did you sell? What's your kind of general thoughts on that? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and get buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Even called out Virgin Galactic, many recoveries today. Even Robinhood called the bottom, called the peak. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.